Hey YouTube, Milwaukee just dropped the new M18 Gen 2 Surge, so it's time to check it out and see if it's worth the upgrade. Today on Tinker with Tools. Now when Milwaukee announced the Gen 2 of the Surge at their most recent pipeline, they really made some impressive claims about what it was going to be capable of doing. How it was going to have 3 times less vibration than a standard impact driver, but then also that it was going to be 3 times faster than the Gen 1 of the Milwaukee Surge. And that's really the metric that kind of caught my eye, because this was no slouch when it came to be an impact driver, but it certainly didn't offer the performance of what I would say is their kind of traditional top-of-the-line impact drivers. Now, it's important to understand what the difference is between a traditional impact driver and what's going to be the difference with these hydraulic impact drivers. With a traditional impact driver, you're going to have a hammer and anvil system inside the tool. That hammer is going to spin around when you press the trigger, and it's going to come in contact and smack the anvil at a very rapid rate, sometimes as much as 4,000 impacts per minute. And that is where you're going to be getting that rotational torque from. But because it is metal striking metal that rapidly, they create a lot of noise, and that kind of makes them less suitable when you're doing kind of interior work or in a small confined space because of just how much noise they generate. So a while back, as far back as 2013, we started to see the invention of these hydraulic or oil impulse impact drivers. That's where it's going to actually compress hydraulic fluid inside instead of that metal on metal connection that you're seeing with a standard impact driver. And there's a bunch of benefits to the hydraulic impact driver. First and foremost, it is that reduction in noise that you are going to be seeing with these tools. And that's something we saw in the Gen 1 as well. When Milwaukee talks about a 50% quieter operation, they're not comparing that to the Gen 1 of the Milwaukee Surge. They're comparing that to the traditional impact driver. So that's important to note. Now, they are talking about 3 times less vibration than a standard impact driver as well. Once I can say, having used several from different brands, they are a smoother impact driver unless you really try and push them. That's where some of the trade-offs come with that different drive mechanism, especially with the Generation 1, whether you're looking at the Makita or this M18 Surge. Their torque figures are just going to be significantly less than what you're seeing from a standard impact driver. That's where I'm so excited about the Gen 2 of this tool, because they really are going to kind of go after some of that, because that metric of being 3 times faster than that Gen 1 Surge and having a large increase in power, this going all the way up to 1,000 inch-pounds of torque compared to the 450 here, I'm interested to see how much different of a tool this is. So now comparing the two different models, this one is going to be pretty much a big reduction in size, going from 4.9 inches, I believe it is on this tool, almost 5 inches, down to 4.3. It feels similar to what you're getting from that Gen 4 M18 fuel impact driver, maybe just a little bit bulkier. Now, when it comes to speed modes, there is also a difference there. This one is just going to have 3 speed modes, but we are going to see an improvement in the performance in those speed modes. Up in Speed 3, you're going to get a max of 3,200 RPMs compared to the 3,000 over here. The impacts per minute is once again going to be drastically different as well. This one had 4,000 impacts per minute. This one goes all the way up over 6,000 impacts per minute. So do expect it's going to be a different experience in using the tool. But the trade-off is you are not seeing that self-tapper mode on here. I don't know whether they just didn't feel like it was being used on the old tool, or if maybe that's not how this impact driver is going to be used, and so they did away with it. But all you do have is the traditional 3 speed modes. Now, you are getting some other differences about the tool. You are going to get the 3 LED lights up top instead of just the single LED that we had on the original M18 Surge. The weight is relatively similar, not a big difference there. Now, price is one place where we didn't see a lot of change. This one is going to be coming in at $199. And with the kit, you can get one for $349 with 2 5-amp-hour batteries and a charger. And so you can kind of pick and choose how you want to get that. But we didn't see a huge increase in price either. You're not seeing an increase over the standard pricing of this one. But I do suspect that if online retailers or stores have these in stock, that you might start to see them at a reduced price in the coming months, just kind of as they try and switch over to this stock. All right, so now let's talk about the testing that we're going to be doing. First and foremost, I just want to showcase the different speed modes that we have, see what the difference is in those speed modes. The second one that I want to do is just some comparative speed test. I want to see if we're actually seeing the 3 times faster performance and what we're going to be seeing with the performance of this tool. And then obviously we're also going to test the sound level to see if there is a difference in the sound with kind of that increased performance. So let's go ahead and go into the testing. Let's kind of go ahead and walk through the performance results and kind of talk about them. Now, first off, did we see 3x faster results comparing to that? Specifically, no, we did not. I saw roughly 18% when you factor in all the tests. I did have one odd result, but overall 18, if I factor out that one test, about 22% improvement over the Gen 1. In person, it is noticeable that there's a performance improvement, and 18 to 20% is a large enough improvement, in my opinion, that alone is worth upgrading to this tool. Now, if you were expecting it to be quieter, that's not a claim they ever made. They only said that it is going to be quieter than a standard impact driver, and specifically they said 50%. Now, in testing those claims, we just kind of held it with the 8 to 10 inches away, so the decibel numbers you're going to be seeing are higher than what you would see. Say if I held it further back, you're not going to get as much volume, but all of them were measured roughly the same way, within probably an inch of each other in terms of how close they were. And so with the standard impact driver, we saw over 101 decibels. With the two of these, I think it was 96 and 97, or 95 and 96. I'll have had the numbers on the screen. And basically, you're seeing a reduction in noise of about 30% in terms of what we were measuring in that specific one. And that is using it on a slightly larger fastener. I think that was on a 5-inch fastener because I did want to see the noise level when they were impacting. And that's definitely when you're going to see the most noise out of the Surge model, is when it is kind of actually actively impacting and kind of pushing it. If you kept it down on a smaller fastener, I would suspect that you'd see that 50% reduction in decibels. And even though a couple of decibels doesn't seem like very much, because it's a logarithmic scale and how you measure decibels, a few decibel reduction is a pretty significant reduction in how it appears. It doesn't always translate well on camera, but I will tell you that the Surge is noticeably quieter than a traditional impact driver, but these two are going to be roughly the same. So then when it comes to overall impressions of the tool, I absolutely love the Gen 1 Surge. I loved it so much that it was my primary Milwaukee impact driver for a number of years, but I did push it too hard one time. This is actually my second version of it. The first one I pushed too hard, and it just was never the same after that. So I will say that with that Generation 1, there were limitations to what it could do, and definitely limitations on its performance. I think with the Generation 2, it's capable enough that I think it's going to be able to do a wider variety of tasks well and within its wheelhouse, so you're not really feeling like you're pushing it. So you're going to be able to drive larger fasteners and drive them more effectively, all while kind of retaining some of that smoother performance, smoother feel, and being able to have the reduction in noise. And so I think overall, generationally, this is an easy recommendation for a buy if you like these tools. Now, we're going to do some testing in future weeks against some other competition, because compared to the Generation 1, this is an easy recommendation for a buy for me. So there you have it. Those are kind of the first impressions. I've only had the tool for 2.5 days at this point. We're going to be doing a lot more testing over the coming weeks. So if you have something specific that you want to see, go ahead and drop it in the comments down below. If you have any questions, do it there as well, and I'll try and get those answered. As always, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It lets me know if I'm doing a good job here. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified when I put out new videos. And as always, thank you for your continued support, and I'll catch you next time on Tinker with Tools.